Welcome back to Player Driven, where we talk to gaming studios to understand what they are making and how they make gamers tick. Today, we're talking about the silent hero of every great video game, traversal. It's not just how you move from point A to point B, it's the very foundation of immersion. Good traversal feels intuitive, an extension of your will. It's the effortless web swinging of Spider-Man, the complex aerobatics of a Warframe expert, or the thrilling grapple hook escapes in action games. The magic happens when traversal meets level design. They are completely symbiotic. You can't have amazing web swinging without towering skyscrapers providing anchor points. You can't have complex stealth if your movement abilities can't exploit vents, rooftops, and multiple pathways. Traversal can also be your reward. The new double jump in the Metroidvania, it doesn't just make you stronger, it unlocks entire new sections of the world. Movement dictates the pace, sets the mood, and defines your relationship with the environment. Whether you're slow walking through a tense horror scene or flying across a map in seconds, traversal is what truly connects you to the digital world. On today's Encore episode of Player's Room, we're talking to Willem Prandonk, the founder of Odyssey Cocktail Interactive. He has a resume that includes building the iconic levels for Knockout City and even working on Star Wars Hunters. But after a decade in AAA development at companies like Zynga, he walked away to build his own studio. Why? Because the biggest companies in the industry are approaching game development wrong. In this video, we uncover his counterintuitive strategy for building innovative cocktail games, the exact mindset that separates good level designers from bad ones, and the crucial proactive skill sets you need to break into the game industry right now. Stick around because the future of the $700 million budgeted games is about to change forever. And if you haven't been following Player Driven, I just want to really keep you up to date on what's going on and what we're building out here at Player Driven. So right now it's myself, and we have Lewis Ward, who's helping with our Substack, and you may have heard him on a few of our podcasts as well, who's helping out when he can, which is some super cool content. On Thursdays, we do our live stream, right? Usually we have Colin Neese on there, who works on the games industry side of things, and we talk about what's going on in the game industry, but we often have game designers on there and other people as well share some insights live, and we stream that across Twitch, LinkedIn, TikTok. We kind of mix it up, just trying out the different networks to see what can work and what can't work. We have our Discord, which is been growing. You can check out the Discord link. It's probably easiest to find it on playerdriven.io, but we're continuing to build that out with content as well. And we're hearing from a ton of you, and we love it. If you have any questions, things you want to hear about, reach out, let us know. We've been building out content based on what we've been hearing from you. So share this with people that you love, because the more people you can share it with, it really does go a long way, and we appreciate it. Send a like. Let us know what you have been liking about the show. You've been great, and it means so much to be able to hear from you. So I do appreciate all of you that are listening and letting us know what you think of the show. This episode with Willem, again, is an awesome episode. We really hope you enjoy it and have a great rest of the year. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Player Driven, everyone. Greg here. Today, we are joined by the founder of Odyssey Cocktail Interactive, Willem Kranendonk. He has a great history of working from companies like Velan and Zynga, and decided to start his own studio of Odyssey Cocktail Interactive. And I'm really excited to hear this story, and I'm even more excited because he's a level designer. And so far, our level designers have been some of the most passionate people we've spoken to in the industry, and I think we're going to continue that trend here. Willem, thank you so much for joining us today. Anything I missed or anything you want to say about yourself?
No, that's a great intro. Thank you for inviting me on the show. It's fun to meet an East Coaster as well. Yeah, just thank you enormously for the invite.
No, thank you. And I saw your announcement on LinkedIn about starting Odyssey Cocktail Interactive, which we'll talk about as OCI, I think. We'll see how it goes. And I loved the announcement. I looked at your history as well, right? And you worked for Velan, which I truly fell in love with Knockout City. And I see you were part of Zynga and you built levels for Star Wars Hunters. And that's such a cool background that now you just did decide to take that scary jump, but awesome jump into creating your own studio. And I want to get there, but let's start from the beginning of you were a level designer for multiple studios. How did you figure out that is your passion? How do you know that's where you wanted to be?
Well, first of all, great question. I actually don't get asked that a lot. I think it's always kind of been there. My grandfather was a civil engineer, and so civil engineers tend to, they tend to be quite architectural types of individuals. I always grew up loving shapes and designs of shapes. It just was very inherited. Um, I never really thought that there was a profession like level design, really at any point in my life, but I realized it always was there because I loved building with Lego pieces, structures. I played a game called Blockland as a kid, which is you're really, really old. You'll know it is a very silly and stupid game. And always tried to make my own like dream house with a racetrack because I love Formula One and all that nonsense. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with my friends making always houses, and this led to like my love for making stuff in an engine. So on Minecraft, I learned how to recreate Rapture just for fun. I know it sounds like I'm still a dweebish teenager, but at the same time, it was really what began the path kind of to me figuring out what I wanted to do. And then I realized, actually, while I was working at Way Forward as a QA analyst, now almost a decade ago, that I had a good knack for working in editors, and I really liked building stuff in editors. And took a year off from working in the industry. Actually, well, almost a year off, like 7, 8 months off, to build a lot of blockouts. And I realized, okay, I got this. And then didn't think I was going to get a job. And then Velan knocked on my door and said, "We're looking for a junior designer. Would you be interested?" And that was really where my career. I mean, my career started obviously before that, but that's where really my level design career sort of kicked off. And Knockout City, and it's not a bad game, I guess, to start your video game career as a level designer.
No, I remember the levels of Knockout City. Me and my buddy, we played religiously, and I know you said you were part of the sky, the rooftop level, which is kind of the iconic one from that game. And I've cursed so many times at that level from falling off the bridge, and I thank you for being a part of that. And I'm really curious. I love the analogy with the Legos, right? I sit and play Legos with my son now, and he loves drawing, but I never really thought of that as level design. But it makes really common. I mean, it makes sense now that we're talking about it, right?
Mhm.
I guess, and this is a weird question. Like, what is level design actually? Are you drawing it? Are you putting it on paper? Are you building the blocks, the shapes? Like, what is the concept behind level design?
Well, I think every level designer has their own view. Some more generic than others. Some will say it's architecture. Some will say it's about, guiding design principles. I'm a bit more Dutch about it, and I say that's all BS. I think it's all about executing the intent of the game in the end of the day. I think that's what level designers are. We're the great implementers. You can have all the great mechanics in your game, but it cannot be executed without good playground spaces to execute that gameplay in. And sometimes it's as simple as a plank of wood across two buildings. Sometimes it's more complicated, like a lot of verticality, skyhooks in Bioshock Infinite or something like that. Other times it's even more simple. It's just a one plane with a bunch of platforms you can jump up on. Bottom of the line, your goal as a level designer is just to execute the fun, execute the vision of the design team. You're in the end of the day, most of your gameplay is going to come from whatever we execute as level designers in that space, and that's what I think makes our job quite interesting, because it is about understanding the game's hierarchy of needs. I always believe that it's more prevalent in multiplayer games than maybe in single player games, but yeah, I think that's for me at least. That's probably what I believe is what our job is.
I love that answer. And you said execute the fun, then you kind of changed it to execute the vision of the design team. But I've spoken to many game directors that talk about finding the fun, right? So I guess the game director and maybe some of the game or people who are creating the game, right, are trying to figure out how do we find the fun in this game. And now you're talking about how do we execute that? How do we make it fun? How do we make that translate to the actual map or look at the feel of the game? Am I kind of going down the right path here?
Yeah, you are. You are. I mean, I'll tell you what, on Knockout City, that was like the number one thing. Fail fast, learn quick. That's how you do it. Like you can have like 1,000 books and listen to like 1,000 level design interviews or whatever. At the end of the day, your game, you have different needs for it. I mean, the level design for Knockout City versus Star Wars, you get two totally different games. Knockout City, it's about finding a ball and creating a space when you do have the ball. It's the spaces in between that you're transitioning. On Star Wars Hunters, it's yeah, it was bit of a mess overall, but it was mainly about flow. It was about getting to the objective clearly and structuring the architecture to get you to those spaces as cleanly as you can and as effectively as you can. Um, but I think that's and even if I look at my single player experience on Bark, it's a three act structure, Kishibuketsu philosophy, how you execute that in a 2D realm space. You're actually no level design book prepares you for making a shoot 'em up like that. And then even the stuff I did at Amazon, where we had a lot of the Kishin Geketsu philosophies for the game we were working on, which I'm not sure I'm allowed to talk about, but what I can tell you is that, it's a no rule that applied even from the game that I worked on in TikTok with Bart, with our shoot 'em up, could apply to that Amazon game. Because in the end, it's like, yeah, okay, you can have all these principles are wonderful and nice. If the game doesn't feel fun after you put them in there, you've not executed your job correctly. And so to us, like, to me, I think regardless of whether you're an experienced level designer or a junior level designer, it's about breaking down your game in the best way possible. And I think that's what makes separates the good levels from the bad levels. The good levels are the ones that sort of break the traditional norms for the intent of the game in the best way possible.
Yeah, I feel like that's a risk, right? And not necessarily a bad risk, but sometimes you play a level that's just too far from the norm. It's just like, this
Yeah,
doesn't feel right. But I think, without those risks, you don't get those rewards. And I think there's a payoff on taking that. I think most players are willing to forgive a not great map if there's other maps in there, right? As long as you take that risk, as long as you take that chance, right? And I'm a big Call of Duty player, right? And you see with each update, they do change the maps a little bit. They might put a new platform, they might put a new
yeah,
thing, and it's interesting how this world of live ops games allows you to make these changes on the fly, whether you love live ops or hate them, right? It does give you the ability to make these changes on the fly based on feedback.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, again, I agree. I mean, that's the cool thing. Like, always from a live ops perspective, I always think throw what you can to the player and always build it up. Of course, you want to always in the end produce good maps, and that's always subjective. But like you always want to do the highest quality that you believe is fun for the product you're creating. But I do think, like, players also don't want to see the same content over and over in terms of level design. I feel like level designers today have gotten to that, which is a bit of a shame. I'm also grew up a big Call of Duty fan. If I see how much risk they were taking compared to what they're taking now, it's unparalleled. I don't know how you feel, but I always feel old Call of Duty, from Modern Warfare onwards, up until probably Black Ops 2, they took a great level of risk and sort of evolved their experience into the thing that we see, that we get nostalgic about. Versus today, like I can't really think of many. And I love the level designers involved in Call of Duty. I just want to make that clear. I'm not here to dog them. But what I am saying is I wish there were more risk in the levels that we're taking now. No three lane stuff, no like sort of leading line sort of stuff. Like just make the Call of Duty map you really want to make, and try to get players to play everywhere in these multiplayer spaces, rather than forcing gameplay to happen in very specific areas that you hypothetically think are going to bring people into the action. I think we have to go back to kind of like understanding what's fun with the version that you were given and continue to evolve that. And I think that's something that as a level designer, I always try to encourage juniors to go for. And I think it can be applied to any genre in the end.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. I actually did a podcast with one of the Respawn studio heads, and he kind of mentioned that, when you're more at the top of your game, right, you're afraid to take these risks as you got the biggest player base, right? And if you mess it up, you don't want to lose those players, right? So you
Yeah,
become a little more risk adverse because you want to make sure that, hey, we don't want to rock the boat too much, but at the same time, then you get bored. Players will get bored. Something I really respect from
and
Fortnite is that every season they just radically change things up. They put different players, different ways to interact with each other, and I think it's fascinating. And I love the design that people take. Like, I don't know, it's just fascinating world to me.
it is, and it's only gonna. I think Respawn are probably on the west at least, and probably with Valve are probably like the great risk takers with their level design, honestly, in the end. And I think I'm hoping that they'll continue to be that North Star for that what the Western level design approach that I think multi-side games look towards going forward. And I'm a big fan of Respawn. Anything they do, I'm a big fan of.
We just need Titanfall 3. That's all I keep asking for. Where's Titanfall 3? And maybe this will be the big update they come out with in a couple days here. Maybe they'll say, hey, we're gonna throw some Titans in
Next
there.
is converting all the way to Titanfall.
Exactly. I'm curious on where you draw your inspiration from, right? How do you, when you hit that creativity block, like what do you do to kind of open up your mind again?
I think for me, it's I indulge in my passion. Honestly, I take risks by just, always opening my mind to certain genres and themes, and I always get out of my comfort zone as much as I can. That's the number one thing I do. I just make the same type of level over and over again. Like if I make a Rooftop Rumble like 4 or 5 times, I'm first of all failing as a level designer, and I'm especially failing as creative. I mean, like every map that I've ever worked on, I put myself in a different moods. I mean, for Rooftop Rumble, I remember music was a big part of with my sort of vision on how to get motivated, because for whatever reason, it just puts you in a zone, and you just sort of at that time it calmed me down because I was in a certain situation in mental space by then. So I listened to a lot of Pink Floyd, which I know is very odd, but I did listen to Dark Side of the Moon. I listened to Adam Heart Mother, which is a very long 23-minute David Gilmour style tune. And then for and then you go to Vader's Castle, and it was honestly it was a lot of podcast listening. It's like what how we get from Vader's Castle to that, and it was like very specific. Like I think it was to do with some JFK assassinations or something like that. The conspiracies that come from that,
All
which
right.
is like it's like you go from that to Darth Vader's castle. It's like right, okay. My point is this: I like to just sort of have something that's kind of out of that world to zone me back into that world. It kind of keeps me split way distracted in the right way. And in terms of like how creatively I sort of change it, I don't know. I do mood boarding. I just do a lot of paper designs. I experiment. I try all kinds of shapes. I walk in. What I like to do, my favorite thing that I like to do is if there's a multiplayer game that allows me to walk around private like alone in the editor with the current mechanics, I'll just do that. Analyze, take screenshots, take videos, and show how I do certain actions. And then I'll capture that and try to bring some of that geometry into the space and see if it complements it. Which I did for Vader's Castle. Actually, I got inspiration from God. What I the names sort of goes back to me. It's this Spec Ops: The Line, which is an underrated classic. If anyone hasn't played it, it's awesome. And yeah, that's essentially how I think creatively, how I continue to think creatively.
It's nothing like a good podcast to help build out Vader's castle. I love that. I love how you can find this creativity in more than just visuals, right? I mean, and I when you look at level design, right? I know it maybe doesn't seem like the obvious thing, but I'm sure it's just more than just visuals that make that level, right? The sound
Uh,
comes in and everything, right? It's that full immersive experience. I love how it's just not visuals for you that's helping paint that picture, and I think it shows that it's a bigger piece than people think.
yeah, and I think honestly with Darth Vader and Vader's castle, like I knew we were going to do that, and big Star Wars fan, like unapologetically big Star Wars fan, and I don't mean it in like the way where people are like, oh my god, I work on Star Wars, blah blah blah. Like I'm the type of guy who laughs his butt off whenever I see Dexter Jetster and start doing the voice and whatever. That's the type of
There you
person I
go.
am. So I already kind of know going into that, like Darth Vader, like I know what you're going to get from that architecturally. So for me, what's important is like, okay, you know what's going to look like. You have your artist who's going to help you mood board and all that. And even then, if you don't have an artist, I already have my own private mood board to know what to do and how to do things. It's always important to take your life a little bit outside of the game to motivate your creativity towards it, and that's why like I'll always do something different every single time. My inspiration actually was there was a famous F1 driver called Sebastian Vettel, who actually isn't my favorite racing driver. I love the guy. He's a very sweet guy from what I've read and seeing online. But Vettel, he does this thing where every year he names his car. He does it, always gives it a different name. And it doesn't matter what it is. It has no like secret meaning to it. He just comes up with a name. It allows him to have a fresh reset. Although that said, he does take it quite far, his names. Like one of the car names he called it was Kate's Dirty Sister or something like that. Like, where did that come from? But like that's kind of how I did the same thing too, you know, with everything I've done. And even with OCI, like, you know, when we were coming up with like, well, how I wanted to think about starting the company, it's about kind of going outside of what I traditionally know. Otherwise, I can't stay fresh in my mind. You kind of always have to do that in an R&D industry.
So I'm not sure how to ask this question, so I'm just going to try and phrase it to see if it makes sense. So, as a level designer, I always thought you needed to know coding to get into gaming, but I'm assuming with a level design, you don't need to know coding. What are the skill sets that you would say to someone that's in school right now that they would want to be able to learn to be able to be a successful level designer?
I think, well, one of the things I noticed with a lot of junior level designers is, first of all, you have to have the mentality that no one is going to hold your hand. I studied in a Dutch university. Um, I'm half Dutch, but I'm mainly American. It may not sound like it, but I am American first and foremost. I don't have the resources in this country or the Netherlands. I mean, I don't live in the Netherlands, but in the Netherlands, like you don't have any level designers that you can go to and call to help you with like the basics of learning stuff. So I was very self-taught. So I think the number one thing you have to do is self-teach yourself, no matter what it is, design, engineering, it doesn't matter. You always have to, and you have to be passionate to learn that. If you're not, and you're like saying, "Oh, I want to be a level designer," blah blah blah, whatever, because I just want to. Good luck. Like you need to be proactive in your job. And the second thing is learn your editors. Learn as many as you can. Don't be proficient in just Unreal Engine 5. Don't be proficient in just Unity. Go beyond that. When I started level design properly, I learned one of the most difficult editors you can work with, which is Hammer, Source SDK, which any of the old school level designers can tell you is the equivalent of hell. It is absolutely terrible. In a way where it's very buggy and it's very complicated and it's a very specific workflow you have to work with. But that's prepared me for everything because for Knockout City, for instance, like when we were developing the proprietary editor for that game, I used a lot of my experience in how we uploaded custom materials from that to apply it into our game, working with the environment artists so that we can prototype faster and then therefore get to the fun. So the point about being a level designer is all the hypothetical stuff, all the theories and all that, that's nice and all. Like that does help, and I believe in it too, despite me criticizing it from both podcasts. But the most important thing is you need to you need to get in there and actually start producing that content. And something that's a bit lost, especially in Western development today, is the lack of proactiveness that a lot of junior developers have to get that. So if you're a junior right now, you know, learn the tutorials quickly in Unreal 5, but just get on with it, get creating in it, put some geometry in there. Even if you don't know how brushes work, get some primitives, learn how the gizmo works. I mean, I still, to this day, use primitives to make most of my levels. Some people will think, oh, that he must be, he must be out of his mind. But on Knockout City, I had no choice in some cases because it's just how we did things. And yeah, I mean, some tools are luxury, and so in the end, you have to work with the tools you have. Basically what I'm trying to say is you can be someone who has a paintbrush and knows how to use a paintbrush, but in the end of the day, you just have to get on with it and continue practicing the craft to hone in on that paintbrush thing. And that's my advice to anyone.
I love how you put that. we talk to a lot of people on the podcast, and layoffs have been tough in the industry, right? And people are kind
Mm.
of sitting, wallowing, upset, which is understanding, right? But be proactive, build something. If you want to be a community manager, go out there and try and build a community up. If you want to be an artist, go create some images. If you want to be an indie developer, go and build a game. And it's gonna be good, maybe not, but it's gonna give you experience, and then you're gonna grow from there. You're gonna get better and better. I love the idea of be proactive, right? Go chase what you want. It's not going to just fall into your lap. You have to go get it. And I love the fact that you said you need to keep honing that craft. I mean, if you look at the best baseball players, hockey players, football players, right? They still have coaches. Are their coaches as good as they are? No, but they still need that practice. They need to go out there and they need to hone those tools to make sure that they work for them. And I think this is a perfect transition into Odyssey Cocktail Interactive, because you want to build this studio. So let's start talking about that. But before we do so, we're going to do a little fireball round here where I'm going to throw some questions at you. So you good to go?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. What did you have for breakfast?
Oh God. This morning I had porridge and water, not milk, which my brother thinks I'm still stuck in some sort of war in an alternative parallel universe. But yeah, yeah.
It sounds like
Which
you're in the Netherlands. I feel like that's
yeah,
like
sounds about right.
yeah, right. I feel like we had some porridge this morning. Wonderful.
Yeah.
What is your dream vacation?
Ooh, you would if. Well, I mean, I'm going to be probably moving to Japan, so I don't think that's well. We are moving to Japan, but I would say probably I'd go back to Greece. I love it's my mom's home country. I've been there most of my life. I'd go to the Peloponnese and just get lost and no internet, nothing, and just sit there, read a book, and read about Lord Byron or something like that.
Can you let our audience know a handful of the places that you lived, and let us know which one has the best food?
Oh God. I have a long list. I know you did that. So I was born in San Francisco. I moved from San Francisco to war-torn Indonesia in the late 90s, and then got evacuated to Greece, and then to Greece to Chile, and then Santiago specifically, and then Santiago to the UK, and then the UK to the Netherlands, then LA, and then back to Holland again, and then back to New York, and then to Austin, Texas, which is where I currently live. And I would say the best country for food would probably be Greece. I think even Gordon Ramsay said it, the best of the three was between Italy, France, and Greece. He actually preferred Greek cuisine. I'm biased, but yeah, it's awesome. It's very simple and it's the best. And yeah, I love it.
All right, great answer. Now I'm going to have to go to Greece. That's on my bucket list now. Uh,
It's a great country.
what is the last movie or TV show you watched?
Last movie, I just watched it last night. Is Onibaba, which is oh God, it's called Demon Hag in translation. It's an awful name for something, but it's a Japanese horror movie and it's a cult classic. It's about these two peasant women who raid the corpses of dead samurai during a war. One of the girls falls in love with a former guy who participated in the war. I don't know in what timeline. And she accidentally gets a possessed mask. One of the girls who's older. That's the hag part, I guess. Again, it's awful name. The older woman and turns into some demon creature and like tries to scare the other girl from falling in love with this man that she's falling in love with, and it's crazy, it's weird, and it's a brilliant movie. You can watch it on YouTube.
All right,
Actually, no,
that's an answer for sure.
that's an answer. I don't have a TV show. I'm not watching a lot at the moment.
All right, last question. Maybe the easiest, maybe the toughest. You don't have to say the favorite, but if I were to say choose a level that really stands out with level design that you had nothing to do with, what level are you going to choose?
Yeah, right.
Or what game?
Damn. Um, I mean, the game that really inspired me was BioShock. Welcome to Rapture. Its opening is great, but I adore Fort Frolic. I think it's an incredible section of the game. Yes, it's fetch quest elitis. It's a lot of fetch questing, but it's so good and it's still aged well to this day, with its pacing and all that. Love it. Well, probably my favorite level, or Ravenholm, but everyone says Ravenholm. So
All right. So let's go back to our normal scheduled episode here. So the last thing we talked about is how you have to be proactive, right? You can't just sit and wait for something to happen. So you've been a level designer, you were last at Zynga. What in your mind, and it's the wrong way to ask it, right? What made you say this is the time to go for it?
yeah, I always wanted to start a studio, but I always felt like it had to be the right timing. I tried to start one up before I went to Zynga, just because I didn't think anyone was ever going to take a gamble on me, honestly, in the level design side. Which I know some people are like shocked to hear that, but like when you deal with rejection over rejection and you are, getting tired of it, like, I don't like going through adversity over and over again. But anyway, I felt the reason I wanted to do this is one, I felt like in the West at least, we're just approaching game development wrong, and the business side especially, and especially on the studio front too. I think there's too much over reliance of let's do this game, but let's have a new coat of paint on them. I think we talked about this, before the call, but like I think the important thing is how do we actually create new R&D products? Players are tired of seeing the same game over and over. The game quality today, I know people complain about it, but quality of games today is incredible compared to what it was before. And so I'm not worried about the quality per se of the games, but I'm worried about are we actually taking risks? And so I felt there was a new way to approach it by maybe, breeding a lot of hybrid games, but also by doing a philosophy where we're not reinventing that genre, which costs a lot of money to do that. We can essentially save a lot of cost in the process just to make brand new innovative products. Our tools are faster than ever before. Our developers are more, knowledgeable of what can go wrong than ever before. We have all the analysis in the world thanks to Google, ChatGPT, whatever you can think of. I don't see a reason why we can't take more risks that use a lot of the foundations that have already been provided to be able to make these games. And thus, I wanted to start OCI and or Odyssey Cocktail Interactive. And I think it's a big jump for me. I don't, being honest, business is not my forte. But I do believe that in the end of the day, it would be nice to start creating some jobs and creating some new experiences to optimize and to make more players optimistic, I guess.
I think you said a lot of great things there that are fantastic. I think quality of games over the past few years has drastically gone up, but the problem is there's been a lot more games in here that also kind of skew what people think. And I think it was, I don't know if it was Take Two or someone, that one of their heads stepped down yesterday because one of the games they announced had a lackluster reception by people. And it was basically a Fortnite clone, right? And I mean,
Right.
I was just like, all right, why are we going to try and build Fortnite again and again? And I love how the indie world is starting to take the world by storm. I think Bellatra is a great example of that. How, hey, we take something simple, but something that we haven't seen before, and we repaint it and we do that. And I love how you're telling yourself that you may not be ready for this. You don't necessarily know all the things that you need to know, but how do you surround yourself with the right people to help build that out? Have you thought about the people you want to include in that and kind of sold them in that vision?
Well, one of my closest friends is a guy called Grant Arthur, and he always said to me, you're probably the most excited about making games that I know, and he's been 30 plus years in the industry. And For me, I know that I won't. Well, I know that there are people who maybe you're even more enthusiastic about it, but it is hard to find those types. I think for us, we're looking for people who are very agile, regardless of resumes or any of that. Like we need people, the team that I really want to build a team that I think enjoy making games more than they like playing them. And I think there is a surprising amount that's increasing over time. I don't think we're the type to really hold on to telling people what makes a great game. I think we're the types who like, okay, let's just get in there and then we'll tell you what's a great game afterwards. So I think that's number one. So we're passionate about making games. We're agile to make these games, and we're not scared about any genre or any of that. And that's, I think, the third quality, which is that, we're the type of people we want in our team are the type of people who don't get scared of an editor, don't get scared of a piece of software. I see, like, I say blank game meets blank game, They go, right, what do you need it in? I want it in Unity. Cool. I don't know anything about Unity. Who cares? We'll learn it right now. That's the type of team you want to have. I know it's a dream team, but you'd be surprised there is a surprising amount that is available. I think the only good that's come from the layoffs, I know it's awful to say that, has been that there's a lot of that talent that is available that studios are not taking a chance on. And we're lucky on our team. We've got some amazing people who we've discovered over the last few weeks and months or so that have stepped up to the plate to fill that void. So yeah, and just being more picky with who we want. We need people who want to work with me, not I want to have it so that you can tell people on LinkedIn that they worked on it. We really want people who want to make these games, regardless if it's one specific genre or not, and are passionate. Again, passion, agility, and ability to survive in any situation.
You kind of connected a lot of parts of what we spoke about earlier to now. First of all, you talked about people who are willing to be proactive, right? What we spoke about. Hey, I don't know Godot, I don't know Unity, but I'm willing to learn that. The beauty of the day and age we are in today is you can go on YouTube and find tutorials on how to do any of this stuff. Whether you hate ChatGPT or love it, I can say, hey, I need to create a game in Unity, and it will give me a starting point. Is it going to be good? No, it probably won't be good. And people are going to say, hey, this is AI. Yeah, it is AI, but it's a starting point. From there, it's up to me to make it my own vision and build it out. But it's a starting point. And sometimes the starting point is the hardest point to do it. And the passion, that's the one thing you said that really interested me, because you said you want to find people who are more interested in making games than necessarily playing games. And I've always under the assumption that people who play games know how to make the best games. And I know it's not one to one, but I find it fascinating, hey, that there's people out there that love to make games but maybe not play them as much. And I think it's good to look for people like that, because you need both sides of the coin to understand, hey, I'm really good at making games. I don't necessarily love to play this type of game, but I know exactly what to do it, and help share those best practices with the others. And I think people in the studio can start to build off each other like that. You can learn from one person, they can learn from the other.
What I will say is, like, and I self-confess, it's like I've mainly been known for multiplayer experiences, and that's been my background. But ask anyone who has worked with me, and they'll tell you that I'm one of the worst multiplayer designers they've ever seen. I mean, seriously, on Knockout City, like, people would gang up on me so that they can get free points, and it's fine. I don't care. It's funny. I mean, look, I mean, and vice versa. I also know a lot of players, like proper video game players, who are fantastic video game developers too, right? I, I think for me, what's important is that they, in the end, you have the way I see it is that it is a privilege to do this for a living, to make games. Most people don't have that privilege in most parts of the world, and in the US and in wherever you can think of. And what we do, we are lucky to do it for a living. So we spend every day making this the moment that really, defines the rest of our lives. And so I think for me, that's the type of people you want to invest in. You can have an amazing resume, 30, 40, 50 years of making games, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make a great game, or be a good studio head in doing that, or whatever position you are. And vice versa, you could be a junior who you think on paper with all their experience sounds great, ends up being very handholdy, and you have to, guide them to the promised land. Bottom of the line, they need to come in and they need to be less interested in necessarily working for OCI or even for themselves. They have to come in because they know they've got a shot to do something really, really fun and special, because they get players, but they also get the idea of fulfilling the creativity that the game needs. And that's what you want to do. And my job as the boss at the end, it doesn't matter what I think. What matters is my team comes in and they're excited to make games. And we're very lucky with our team, at least, that we're able to do that.
So why cocktail games? When you first announced this, you were talking about cocktail games, and why don't we start at the higher explanation of what is your concept of a cocktail game? And I know we can't go into the details because nothing's been fully announced, but like, where's the vision leading you?
So cocktail, as I alluded, the idea is to go back to basics rather than just let's reinvent name X genre, racing genre. We start bringing components that made the racing genre so successful that drew players in, but also then combine it with something else. that maybe has nothing to do with racing, but could work together with it and see kind of what comes out of it. And the way I see it is I don't know if I explained it to you last time. The way I see it is it's like a good cocktail drink, you know? We gin. I see a lot of games like gin and equivalently tonic. If you take these two ingredients, right? Everyone's trying to perfect both of these ingredients, spending more and more and more money, and maybe it tastes better than the other. But it still tastes exactly the same. It's still gin, it's still tonic. So what you have to do is go back to the basics and go, oh, you just combine them and see what comes out of it. And the result, you get a pretty fine drink. And so, best cocktail ever created, I'd argue. That's kind of why we want to see our games. And that's both the high level and honestly the deeper level of the development of these of our games. And I think it allows us to be quite versatile in the market. It means that we're not going to be known just for making a specific genre game or multiplayer games or racing games or whatever. We know for cocktail games, so a wide variety of different games, and that keeps us on our feet, allows us to adapt to different market challenges that present ourselves, and also even within them, be able to stand out in a different aspect of it. So that's essentially the type of studio we wanted to create, whilst being cost effective, which I think this allows us to do.
Yeah, I like the conversation. I like the analogy to the cocktail because that's what it is and that's what makes sense. And I've always heard over time is that some of the best games come up when you start mixing genres that start to make sense, right? And less people take these chances or they take it in a weird way. So, you're in startup mode here, right? What are your like lists of to dos? Like, where are you at?
So right now we're looking for a publisher. I mean, like we've done a lot of the due diligence. We're doing we've pretty much got a base team up and running from across the world. We're a very international studio. I'm an international person, so I really do think the talent is outside of North America, and I think Odyssey is now at the part where it might be even better than some places around the world on average. Um, we're right now we're looking for a publisher for our prototype that we've just finished. We're on course to finishing new aspects of it, and it's a very exciting prototype. And we're partnering with a studio or a company that I can't announce just yet, that we're talking to, that's helping us co-develop this experience. But I think it's a clever way of approaching our early goals of, let's get a really good looking prototype in a short amount of time. And honestly, that's what we're looking for. We're looking either really for publishers or at least an investor into our business. And we've also been diversifying ourselves, like, how do we raise money? And we're trying to potentially get into co-development or outsourcing work for some of the games that could require us to do that. And that's it.
So, how long does this prototype actually take to put together?
Current prototype, again, we talk about proactiveness. We did in less than, let's say now, what are we, day 23? Yeah, day 23. It's almost done.
Nice, you got your own little game jam going on there, building this stuff out.
It's really cool. And it has, the only thing I can say about it is that it branches on a lot of things that people know me about, but also it's something that's quite surprising and unexpected.
When is the right time to start to market?
When we get a publisher, which will be, we hope, as soon as possible. I think, honestly, our goal is to try and release this particular game sometime uh, in the next year or so. But that's the optimist in me. I think we have something very special, and I think something that, okay, some people might be scared to put publishing money into, but honestly, our team has been able to adapt to any challenge so far, and I think it's so different from anything else content wise. I don't see a reason why we can't go to market as soon as possible. Most likely, it will be an early access product, but I can't reveal more than that.
So, I'm curious on, we often talk about building community. It's something we like to talk about in this podcast, right? And I think Manor Lords is a good example of, they built up the community, the game got boosted because of the community. And I realized there's a handful of games that can manage to strike lightning. I don't know what the right word to say there is, right? It's why wait for the publisher before building out a community? Is that just kind of your own thought process? I'm just curious about that.
we want to build I think I'm a very extroverted person, so community is very important to me. I love talking to players, fans, journos, other developers about any game. It's always been like that. I have my own Discord server mainly for game developers. I haven't, I'll be honest, used it for a while because of starting the business and also wrapping up production on Star Wars took a lot out of me. But I think community comes from listening to feedback, addressing feedback, executing feedback, no matter in what form it is, whether it's how you apply your Discord logo, how you talk to people, how you address the game concerns that maybe, addressing the voices you can't hear at the back of the room, finding ways to get to the back of the room to hear those voices. I think that's honestly how I address it is always try to get everyone heard. Listen, like I can tell you what makes my game great and what makes my studio great. In the end, the community matters more. I want them to enjoy the ride and be a part of it, and I want them to know that they're going to be a part of it no matter what.
Love it. Love it.
I think one thing we can do is, where does the industry go from here? I think optimism, investing into these type of people who really want to create jobs and get the most out of people, I think is honestly what's important to me.
And I love how you said it. Layoffs is a very disappointing and upsetting time for the industry, but it's also kind of a light, this glimmer of hope that, everyone says for the longest time MBAs took over gaming, right? Everyone's just trying to make a bottom dollar at the end of the day, and it's all they care about. But Willem, yourself, and there's other people out there that just love making games, and they're going to continue making games. And I think it's a really positive thing that will happen over the course of the next couple of years. It's just we have to get through this rough patch in order to get there. But as we talked about multiple times here, right? Proactiveness. Go out there, make a game. It may not be good. I watched this hour-long video on the making of Balatro, and it's just fascinating how he had no intent to make a real game, and all of a sudden it turned into what it was. And there should be more people that take chances like that out there, because there's all different types of gamers. My mom's a gamer now. My sister's a gamer, right? Because they all play these games on their phone, and there's something for everyone out there. And I think people just need to take these chances. When you take a look at kind of what the industry is turning into, are there tools? Do things like AI scare you or excite you? Like, how does the future look from the point of making games?
I'm optimistic. I think I'm optimistic because I think the whole $700 million budgeted games are over. I think, I think the guys in the big chairs ordering other guys with smaller chairs making games are going to deplete. I think it's going to go back to the creatives. I think it, these creatives today are going to be more proactive than ever before. I mean, look at Respawn. Respawn's a really good example of this. There's going to be another Respawn. There's going to be another Mediatonic. There's going to be another From Software. It's right there, and I'm hoping OCI can reach even 1% of those heights. But I'm not scared of AI. I think if AI needs creativity, then we should use it. I also think the creative in the end is going to dictate the final vision of the game. And it's what Steven Spielberg says. Yeah, AI, embrace it. Woohoo! There's no replacement for Steven Spielberg. It's the same with there's no replacement for Ken Levine, Todd Howard, these legends, Miyamoto, Kojima. That you're not going to get those guys replaced ever, and vice versa. The creators that are up and coming now, you're not either. I mean, the Balatro story is a real example of this. You can have, like, it is proven over again. The people who want to be there, want to make the games, are going to see that in the final product. Balatro is a great example. I love that story. I love the story of Lorien, even with how long it took to make that game. You can see there's been a lot of love put into that. I love the story of uh, how Elden Ring was made and how the CEO took a cut to make sure he can pay his team. These are the type of studios to make players get excited about the future. Those are the studios going to be making great games. I tell you what, there's a lot more coming after all of this. It's going to be a blast the next few years. Yes, it's rough right now, but we have an obligation. I have an obligation as a guy who's running a studio to do right by those bugs.
Man, the energy from level designers. I don't get it. It's just you guys have so much passion for the industry, and I love it. I think your insight on the industry, on where it's going, where it's been, how it goes full circle, is just fantastic. I love your thought on AI. I think AI is a fantastic tool that everyone should utilize and take a look at, but it's not going to replace the human element of it. There's going to be these human interactions that, like, creativity isn't something a computer can truly replicate, and it's fascinating what it can do, but the mind of Kojima, right, or Ken Levine, and Todd Howard, right, like they just have something that is special, and I think more people have that than they think. They just need to take these chances and test themselves, right? It's scary, but you got to just take these chances, because every once in a while you're going to find that diamond in the rough, and all of a sudden that's it. But you can't find that diamond without looking for it, and these tools, these people, everyone that's available can be utilized to help you find that diamond. So you can either sit on the sidelines waiting for someone to call you in, or you can go in and start making your own team and building your own team, which is what you're doing at OCI. And I think it's a fantastic endeavor, and I think you have something great that can be really fun once it's all said and done. So first off, Willem, thank you so much for this. I think, again, your insights are just fantastic. Let us know a little bit more. Where can we find OCI? Where can we find you?
Yeah, so you can find me actually on LinkedIn. I don't really have social media as much as I used to. I do have threads, but I do often regret that. Don't even know what my threads is. I think it's Willem underscore Kranendonk. But you can, I'm sure if you find my name, you'll find me somewhere. But I am on LinkedIn. We do have our own website, odysseycocktailinteractive.com. And we will also be, we're looking to be quite present at GDC. So if you're at GDC, you might see me there. Do follow us on our socials, and you'll know more about that as time goes by. We're not currently hiring, to be honest, yet, but we are. When we do, you'll know it through our social media page on LinkedIn.
Cool. We will have information for everything from Willem to OCI on the Player Driven website. I think you're doing some great stuff. Once there's a prototype available, I'd love to be able to give it a shot, test it out, share some stuff from it when possible. And I will be stalking you down at GDC, because I will be there as well. So,
come play the build. We'll have it there.
boom, there we go. Again, thank you so much for today. I am looking forward to learning more, and best of luck with everything.
Likewise. Thank you, Greg. Stay safe, and thank you for the invite.
Sure.